now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And every week on the show, it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but that doesn't mean it's not always and forever your experience. My guests today are wonderful friends. I'm so honored to have them here. They're making their debut here on this show, and they are wonderfully talented individuals, important people in the creative world, wonderful spiritual beings, and fantastic members of the LGBTQ plus community. And so honored to call them both my friends. Please welcome Robin McWilliams and Madonna Cacciatore. How are you both? It's wonderful to have you here.
We're good. Thank you for that fabulous introduction. We're happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. I'm honored to have you here. I love spiritual creatives, and you both fall into that category for me. I don't know how to separate my artistic self from my spiritual self. I know not all spiritual people consider themselves creative, and not all creative people consider themselves spiritual. But for me, it's like one channel, and it all comes from there, and it's all about sort of participating in the oneness, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So for you, today on our earth, right, in our world where there's a lot of stuff happening all the time. Robin, you go first. What's important to you that you bring to the world lately? I mean, obviously you brought so much to the world throughout your life, but right now, what do you think the world needs that you try to provide?
Hope.
Nice.
Just trying to make people just give knowledge and information so that they understand beyond their view, to help them journey through any decisions that they're about to make as we go into this new political world. And, to the best of my ability, give them a chance to see something different.
Yeah, I love that. And I see that both of you on social media, you post a lot of hopeful stuff, a lot of positive stuff, a lot of beautiful pictures of your animal children. And I think we need that. I think there are enough people out there that feel compelled to point out every negative thing. It's so funny. I have this client, and every day she sends me an article about something that's going to kill us all, like the comets coming, the volcanoes coming, the hurricanes coming. One time it was all about how, we had that little 3.4 down here in Huntington Beach where I live. And then it was all about how California was going to break off and float off into the Pacific. Like her thing is she needs to bring the warnings. She's like Chicken Little. She needs to bring the warnings of the end of the world. There's so many people that have to tell you every negative thing that can happen. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that some of us also fill in those gaps with positivity.
Yeah, I agree.
Madonna, how about you? What are you bringing forward that you think is so important right now?
Was that for me? I'm sorry.
That was for you, sweetheart. Yes.
Well, kind of the same thing Robin said, but and I'm not going to lie, I get caught up in when people are angsty or they say hateful things on social media. It takes everything I can do not to engage with that and to really bring my. And trust me, sometimes I do when I feel like there's an education that needs to happen here. Do they hear it? I don't know, but sometimes I have to say something. So for me, it is about education. It is about not being proactive and not reactive, although it's hard to do that. But it's just, I try to, like you said, our animals teach us a lot, and they just having, kitties around us or being out in nature, that helps me sort of recenter myself and to really realize, and being around, of course, my beautiful wife, what's really important.
Nice.
And focus on that. So for me, it's also about bringing positive energy, because there's plenty of negative energy in the world. And I think if we have to keep sharing our positive messages, I'm not talking about pretentiousness, just really, what good is happening, and to try to, because the more you talk about something, the more energy it gets. So I feel like putting good energy gets more good energy, or helps evolve the good energy.
Right. It's true, right? And I think if you're going to look at something if you look at spirituality as a kind of physics, right? And we're starting to make those connections between spirituality and quantum physics, that it's really about energetic properties. And if you are going to constantly fill yourself up with negativity, now that doesn't mean you have to be, a Pollyanna and put your rose-colored glasses on and pretend the world is perfect so you don't have to do anything to make change. But if you're constantly going to live on the negativity, I tell my clients all the time, if you're looking for reasons why your life sucks, you'll find them.
Yes.
But it's so important that we not constantly be focused on that, not just for us, but for those of us who have a voice as artists. It's important that we not put that out into the world all the time, that it's negative, 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 because in a way, then you're just bolstering the negative, right? You're just pumping up the negative and giving it more of a voice than it needs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, not to say we have all kinds of experiences, and we've been together over 20 years. Like, we've met all kinds of different people. And sometimes they bring the kind of things you were talking about. They want to talk about the negative. They want to live in drama, which is, their prerogative, but I don't want to live in that. However, Robin and I might turn to each other sometimes and go, oh my God, we're doomed. When we see stuff going on the planet, we're like, how are we ever going to get through this? So we help each other through those moments too.
But we have an amazing way of getting through it, right? And I think that we've become, and not to get all full bore politics on this show, but we've become so we all have political PTSD in this country, I think. No matter which side of the fence you fall, we're all completely charged up and angry at each other, and it's all about us and them, and this is going to happen and the world's going to end, and then that's going to happen in the world. Like, everybody thinks this political person is going to ruin the world. No, this one is. And I think we just we're so triggered all the time.
Yeah,
we need to find a way to, I think, breathe through that. And that's why I made a decision after the celestial shit show that was 2016, that I had to step away from that. And that's when I got that's when I got the download from Spirit to start my raisingthevibration.org movement. And when you become the Raise Your Vibration girl, you're really not allowed to put nasty things on social media anymore. Even though I have a very dark sense of humor, and sometimes I want to, I laugh at other people's. But for the most part, they're things I just can't do anymore. And it's interesting how it's trained me not to do it. It's like when you quit sugar and it's the end of the world, and then 3 weeks later, you're like, why did I ever eat sugar? It's the same thing. Once you stop doing it, it kind of feels foreign to do it, and you don't have so much of an urge to do it anymore.
That's very true. Yeah. As actors too, we have to be careful what we're saying, just because, I mean, yes, we can be political, but we just can't be trashing people. We can't go to the dark place. It's just, we present ourselves in a way that is kind. That's what we like to do as human beings anyway. But it's, when I first was on social media, I used to just say everything I ever felt. And I was like, that's probably not a good idea anymore.
I want to go find those posts and read them.
I'm sure they're floating around out there. Maybe I should check. Yeah.
Robin, how about for you? Are you on the same page with that, with trying to make sure that the message you put out there as an artist and as a human being is something that's, you think about how that's going to land on somebody else before you say it?
I do as much as I can. It got to the point, especially when it came to social media, that I had to stop posting, except to brag about my babies, brag about my actors, brag about my writers, brag about my wife and our relationship. But other than that, I had to stop. And there are times where I've got to let off a little steam myself. So I'll do a little, rage and then take it down.
Yeah.
Like, just get it out.
All right. Right.
Take it down.
Yes. I tell my clients all the time, type it up, but don't send it.
Yeah.
Type it up like you're going to send it. Don't send it.
And I'll say that to my actors. I'll say, I'm going to keep an eye on your social media, because you're trying to present yourself in a certain way. And there are things that will bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
In our world, it really, really will. So, I want you to use your voice. You have a right to use your voice. What I don't want to see is you, upside down with a tequila bong in Las Vegas, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that we were all trained as actors, right? To not have the picture where you're upside down with a bong of any kind of bong.
Yeah.
But I think for some people, it's hard, I think. And I think it's especially hard for folks of our generation and older generations, where we were taught, nobody cares what you think, you're an actor, don't have an opinion. Nobody should really even, I think it was Noah Wiley told me once on my show that, actors are taught to be a blank canvas, right? Nobody wants to think of you as any particular thing, because they're just supposed to think of you in the character when they see it. Somewhere along the line, actors went, not anymore. Now I want my opinions out there. And I think that's great, because I think it's important for fans of performers and creators to know that they have opinions and get to know them as people. I think that's actually wonderful, and that we were kind of being done a disservice with the other ideology. However, I think sometimes people overcorrect and think the world wants to see everything and every rant, and now I'm going to turn on the camera and cry on TikTok for 45 minutes about my personal life. And I respect anybody's right to put anything out there they want to put out there that's not hurting someone else. Mm-hmm. The only thing I don't respect someone's right to do is to trash another person. But if you want to go cry about all your problems, I think that's great. But I also sometimes wonder if we're thinking about, when we do things, how it's affecting others, and is it helping others? I think that's why when I stopped talking about politics and I stopped talking about a lot of the three-dimensional issues, I decided my rant was always going to be against darkness and against narcissism and things to help other people bolster themselves up and stay away from negativity. Because I'll just talk trash about negativity all day, and I have a problem with that. Yeah. And just make it more like that, so it's at least inspiring someone in the midst of the rant. Because I think as a person, you got to have a rant occasionally. My mama used to tell me, it's great you're all love and light now, sweetie, but you got to hang on to just a little bit of your Irish anger. So
I would say you're allowed to visit that well. Make it a short visit, because it doesn't serve you.
Yes.
When you're raised Italian, you just don't hold. I mean, I was raised with a bunch of Italians. Nobody censored anything ever, which is, and so for me, I don't shove things down, because I can't. It's just not, I'm not able to do so. But I've gotten better about like rearranging my rage around things, or sort of filtering how it comes out. Because I am, I do have a lot of feelings about people being hurt and animals being hurt, and how the world, how people treat each other right now. I have a lot of feelings about that. It makes me cry. It makes me hurt. It makes me angry. But how can I help people, or how can I help save little creature, you know, an animal or something like that, that helps me move my energy, my vibrations higher.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to say what you believe. I think we just have to be careful about, you know, how much it goes on and to what extent. And I
Yes.
think it's really just a matter of what we talked about earlier, thinking when you are typing something. And I think it's this way when you grow up as an actor, right? You think not just about my process as an actor, but what is somebody watching this going to think or feel when they're watching my performance? And I think when you post on social media, it's the same thing. It can't just be, I need to get this out with my 2 fingers. I type with 2 fingers. So here we go.
Well, that's so
But
cute.
still, because when typing classes were offered in high school, I was like, what am I going to need typing for? I'm gonna but then, you know, you have to think about when people actually come back and read this or watch this, how is it going to fall on them? What are they going to feel? What are they going to, for me, I learned a really big lesson the first year that I was doing at my last affiliate before COVID, where I was for 12 years. That was the first time I ever really interviewed people. Before that, I worked on the Howard Stern affiliates, was a lot of taking phone calls. And I had just seen this thing with this performer just really making an ass out of himself in this political rant. And I had been on the air, you know, sort of saying something about that maybe was very sarcastically funny. And then that week I interviewed his daughter, and all she did during the interview was talk about what a beautiful father he was. And I felt so weird about it. I just felt bad because I thought, look, you know, I still stand by the fact that that was a weird thing that I saw, but you're talking about somebody's husband and somebody's father and somebody's son, and their experience with that person can be very different than what you just saw. And that was when I realized I needed to like dial it back a bit on my opinions on things, because I think even doing what I do, interviewing people, there needs to be a neutrality, because you interview all kinds of people. And I think my responsibility spiritually and creatively is to bring out the good in people so people can feel your hearts and souls through an interview, not to give my opinion on what I thought was a, you know, really bizarre episode on television.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same thing that you
Right.
did, you know, but
Yes.
people do help. I mean, that was an opportunity where you saw somebody put that into a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that we can look at. I also feel like it's really valid to call things out, to when people are hurting, when you witness something, and I'm not necessarily speaking about that, but when you witness something, or you know, Jimmy Kimmel's getting into it right now with a guy who lied about him. And so Jimmy's just like holding, like, it was a lie, and you hurt people with lies. So to correct the truth, or to come back and you know, sort of defend yourself, I think that's a different thing than just talking trash, you know.
I agree. And I think for me as a spiritual being, I've just reframed it when I post. Instead of talking about a person, talk about, you know, there's this kind of person. And then that way, anybody who falls into that.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like I'm targeting anybody, because if you know that person, you will know what I'm talking about. And that kind of person. And that kind of person will never think they're that kind of person anyhow. So it doesn't matter.
It's true. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people on the earth being damaged by other kinds of people who are either irresponsible socially or emotionally or spiritually, or just unwell. And I'm really at this point in my life very interested in how can I help people who have been hurt by people like that, more than I feel now like I need to be the dispenser of justice towards those people. And there was a day, I used to always say every Aries is born with a little gavel in her hand waiting to dispense justice. So I guess now I've sort of put my gavel down, and I'm trying to think more about things from a, you know, from a universal perspective instead. I mean, I think maybe you guys went through this with the SAG-AFTRA strike and the writer's strike, right? It's, yes, it's about, boy, we're angry because of being treated like this and being treated like that. But on a bigger level, it's, hey, every artist should be respected and compensated for what they have done in a fair way. And yes, that has not happened. And yes, we do think X, Y, and Z should change their ways. But there's a different way to frame it, right? It's not because you should change your ways. It's because, hey, every artist should be given this, and we're not being given this, and a change needs to happen.
That's right. And, yeah, I just quickly around that, we worked a lot at Warner Brothers and during the strike, and we had all the strike captains, we just really formed this bond that will never be broken. And we operated our strike line like in kindness. We weren't there to try to jump in front of cars, to not let people turn into the lot, because there were people who were legitimately working, that weren't crossing a strike line as actors. And so that's how we operated. There were plenty of angry people around. People, I would say not too many actors did this, but occasionally there'd be somebody like, well, I'm just going to stand in this until the light, changes and see if they run over me. And we would just be like, that's not a really good idea.
Yeah,
we're not here to do that. We're here to have a movement to show that we are standing in solidarity. This is a solidarity strike. It's not,
Yeah.
And there were, toward the end when it was getting a little more angsty around, we need to resolve this. The cars were getting a little more angry. So in response to that, we all just breathed together. We held our line. We held our energy. We did not get angry at them. And I would say there were a number of cases where there's a picture of me literally standing with my back to a car that was trying to go through an intersection and literally hit. They weren't trying to run over us, but they just kept inching forward. I thought, all I'm going to do is stand here. We already kindly said, please stop, please stop, please stop. And then they finally stopped when they were very, very close to me and another strike captain. And we all just sort of came together. Nobody said anything nasty. We just said, sir, please stop. And then I'm literally standing there with my little stop sign with my back to this red car. And as soon as it was safe, because they could have hurt a lot of people also. But to me, that was an example of how in a negative situation, people would just breathe and come together to help each other get through this moment. And there were many of those moments that we both experienced on the lines.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love how active you both were and how you were there making sure everybody was protected. Because that's the most important thing, right? Is that we make sure everybody's protected. And some people don't know how to protect themselves and they need someone to jump in and help. And they want to come down and they want to participate in something like a strike or a protest, but they don't really know how to do it. And they don't know what the protocol is. And somebody has to sort of take the reins and become the leader and become the shepherd and help get the flock to a place where they're safe, right?
We've had that happen a couple of times during many of the rallies and marches, whether it was for women or our LGBTQIA2+ community or whichever it was that we felt strongly about. And we've had friends come into our lives saying, you guys are so proactive. I've always wanted to do them. Like, well, then come on, let's go play.
Yeah.
Come with us. Let's go.
I like that. You're safe with us. Yeah, no, I think that's so important. Finding people that you feel safe with and that you feel safe to try new things with, I think is one of the most beautiful things in life, is finding somebody that makes you feel like you're safe. It's not easy. And I think it's nice. And it's nice that you provide that for other people.
I'm just I growing up, I wasn't allowed to use my voice at all. So I kind of really push that with a lot of people. And so I was like, just use your voice. Know that I've just always said that, you have a right to say what you're feeling. You have a right to your opinion. And no one gets to take that away from you. But know when you voice them, there are repercussions to those actions.
Yes.
Right or wrong doesn't mean there are repercussions. Did you have a right to say that? You absolutely 100%. And I fully support that idea. But when it comes back and bites you in the ass, you have to accept those consequences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what was sort of Robin, what was sort of a bit of your process of finding your voice? Because it's not an easy thing. When you're not raised to speak your mind, it's a hard thing to find that voice.
I'm actually at 62 years old, still learning too. Madonna has helped me a lot because she comes from a family that's always been very verbal. She's helped me find that quite a bit in the 20 years we've been together. And I'm still not there. I still shut down quite a bit. I shut down with us. I shut down with my family. You know, it's just because it's the muscle memory kicks in, and you know, so, and because I know that of myself, I don't want that to happen to anyone else. So I try and encourage people. Okay, come on.
Yeah, my Italian ex used to call that the dark Irish silence. Oh, I see what's going on right now. The dark Irish silence. Because I'm very open and very open-hearted, but when I feel triggered, I go real quiet and I always thought, like, what's wrong with her? She's so crazy. She's always yelling. And then I went to go home to see her family one Christmas, and they were all yelling at each other. And I'm like, they're like, what do you want? We're Italians. And I'm like, oh, I understand.
That sounds very similar. Yeah.
It's like this house.
Like, real fun in the pub, but when they're pissed and when the quiet starts, that's when you better start backing away. So
yeah.
Try to learn to not be like that, and it's a process, right? To not feel like you have to go internally when you feel like things aren't okay.
That's where I pretty much go constantly.
Yeah. But you're getting there, and that's nice. And having a supportive partner, that must be something that helps, because you know you're in a safe place with Madonna, so you don't have to worry that's one more thing that's going to be triggering and awful.
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, and speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the LGBTQ community. Where do you feel like we're going? What do you think is the next big thing that we need to work towards as members of the queer community? What are you feeling is, or where can we, because of our experience, help others?
You want to take that one?
We're putting you on the spot, Robin.
Yeah, no, it's not. No. The one thing that we have to remember, the one thing that I love is we're all three of us of an age category where we couldn't be out and open from the get, but because of our fight, our generation now and prior and coming up gets to be out and open. I think our biggest function has to be to teach our history, so that they know where it came from and how to keep the torch going and keep the mantle high and things like this. And to know that we have centers out there. Our Los Angeles LGBT Center and a lot of the centers across the nation, most of our lesbian community do not know that we actually have a space in there, that the clinic actually involves us. Our community tends to generate around our gay community, our male. So making sure that they know that, so that there is support for our lesbian community, that there is doctors for our lesbian community. There's, counseling, things like that.
Beautiful. Yes, that is a thing. I know that is a problem. Well, and also I think that we as women, right? Because as queer women, we are queer, but we're also women. And we need to make sure we support other women irregardless of their letter.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we tend to, like all communities, right? We start to break down us and them, this letter and that letter, and who's this and who's that. And I think it's so important that we all need to come together and support each other as women, irregardless of how we identify sexually and from a gender perspective.
100%, especially now.
So important. I was raised kind of in a strange way where my mother was very open. So I've been out since I was 18 and really just when I figured it out. I mean, I figured it out, told my mom the next day, and she was fine and always was fine until she passed, and is still fine from where she is. Everybody's fine once they pass and go, wait a minute, why did I care about that on earth?
Right.
But I saw that struggle around me, and I have seen that struggle in other people that I have had in my life. So I've always fought for the community in that way. But I have been surprised in my life how different letters that I fall under have had me be marginalized by different letters in the community. And I've always thought, wait a minute, sometimes I just wish there was a giant pink Q that sparkled and we all fell under that. And we weren't so worried about, well, who's this and who's that? And the men should get more than the women. And, you know, lesbian women are more valid than trans women. And it's too much. And I think that because we've been marginalized for so many thousands of years, it's important that we maybe set that standard for other communities of, hey, let's all just work together as one. You don't have to all be the same. We all are the same in the fact that we're all having this sexuality, gender experience of some kind. And shouldn't we just love all our fellow queer peeps and not worry so much about who's what and who's important and what, you know what I mean? I just think it's people, well, why are the trans people getting so much attention? Well, because they need it right now, because they're the ones being so marginalized. We have to stick up for the ones who need the most right now.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, in 2019, 18, 19, and then right before pandemic, I was the executive director of LA Pride. And I spoke, and in 2018, a lot of our community felt left out for one reason or another of LA Pride. It wasn't, I don't think it was anything intentional. I just think over the years, it sort of kept regenerating itself, you know. So what was important to me was to talk to every single letter in the community and but not letter these human beings who felt left out for some reason. And why that happened. I mean, I'm talking everything from trans men who have a different issue or experience than trans women. And of course, you know, every single human being has valid concerns and feelings and ways in which it just boils down to people just want to feel loved and respected, period, for who they are.
Yes.
And that wasn't happening. And that didn't feel like it was happening to them. The Native American community, the indigenous people, the people with different abilities who didn't have access, you know. So what we ended up with was as good of an experience as we could have in a year period of time to sort of refresh LA Pride. But for me personally, that was one of the greatest experiences of my life because I got to sit and listen to people and cry with people. We'd go have coffee and cry together because I'm so sorry this happened to you, you know. And I remember in a global pride convention that we attended in 2018, I remember tribal leaders in Canada talking about, you know, hey, you know, we are on the same, you're in your canoe and I'm in my canoe, but we're going down the same river. Exactly. So if my canoe tips over, I'm going to have to, you know, we're going to have to help upright it, you know. And it's that kind of thing where we're on this journey, we're doing this thing, we're all having, I don't care if two lesbians are having completely different experiences. So it's whatever, maybe one lives in a place that's not welcoming and I live in LA, and so I'm having a different experience than that person. So and when we start getting judgmental of each other, it's in trying to put each other in boxes and in judgment, that's not helpful. What's helpful is to do what you're talking about, Sheena, where we recognize that we're different people, but we're having this big Q. I'd like a big sparkly Q experience. And
yes.
for some people, yeah, it's a sexual experience or a sexual, and some it's a gender experience. So it's different, you know.
Yes.
But that we need to support one another. And I'm telling you right now, we need to do that more than ever. You know, if you think back to the AIDS epidemic and how people just came together, didn't matter who you were in the spectrum of the LGBTQI community. The most important thing was helping those with AIDS live or get through the experience that they were about to have.
Yes, I agree. It's a shame that it takes sometimes for us some kind of pandemic or disaster or terrorist attack for all of us to come together. New Yorkers never loved each other as much as right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And then eventually it went back to us and them again. And I think that's really part of my spiritual mission. I think part of my ministry is to to try to get rid of that. And I see that all the time. I even see it in my own church, and I'm a pastor at a gay church, and I see it there. This, everybody's worried that they're not getting their thing. And it's, in Eastern religion, right? It's the difference in an abundance consciousness and a scarcity consciousness. Scarcity consciousness, you worry, like, if you're getting something, is that something I'm not getting? And abundance consciousness says that you getting something means I'm going to get more of something because you got it.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to get into that place of realizing that every right that a human being gets, whether it's women, people of different ethnicities, spiritualities, sexualities, genders, able-bodiedness, every time somebody gets a right, the world gets better for all of us.
That's right.
Because it makes our life better. Because everybody is marginalized in some way.
That's right.
Even the whitest, most Christian man in the world, there's something in there that marginalizes him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's short. Maybe he has a small penis. There's something going on.
Probably.
That makes him marginalized. Probably he has a small penis, which explains a lot of the actions.
Yeah. And I just want to touch very quickly on something Robin said, which is very, very important with all the banning of books and things that are happening and those who are trying to erase us in our history. It's very important. One of our things we can do to help each other is educate each other, read books together, go, let the drag queens read the books wherever, I just feel like there's an opportunity for us to educate.
Yes. We should start a little group called Let Drag Queens Read to Your Children. Because I think that would be awesome.
Let drag queens read.
Period.
Oh, yeah. Yes, anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Convalescent homes, anywhere they want to go. There's just the things that we fear. And I think growing up, I had, two parents that were not very close. And one was scared of everything and one was scared of nothing. And luckily, my mother was the primary parent. And so she was the one she was scared of a lot of things. She had a lot of anxiety and stuff. And, she was a Scorpio. So there are 37 deadbolts on the front door. But she wasn't fearful that the other was coming for her.
Right.
So I was raised with no fear of the other, only fear of the other as there are people who are dangerous, but not the other looks like this or the other looks like that. So I see other people whose parents raised them to be so fearful. And it makes me really sad because my mom would have taken me to a thing where drag queens were reading books every week. She would have thought that was the best. I think my mother would have, if she had thought she could qualify to do it, she would have been a sister of perpetual indulgence and loved every minute of it. So I just think that, we're so busy fearing everything in this world. And, I teach a workshop called There's Nothing to Fear But Fear Itself. And it is true, right? Fear is such a toxic thing. And that fear eats us up. And it's so much worse than what we fear. And I think even me struggling with anxiety my whole life, I know half the things I'm scared of, that the anxiety is worse than those things. And I know it's irrational and I work on it every day. But for some people, they don't know it's irrational. They really think these are things to be scared of. And I think that's where a lot of our political problems come from, is some politician or another politician knows how to come and push fear buttons in people. 100%. And once people are in a place of fear, it's so hard to get them out of it. They become traumatized, It's like, I always say, it's like when my cat sees something he doesn't like in the yard and his tail gets all fluffed up. And he gets that big fluff down his back. The other day when I was in the bathroom, he came in the bathroom and he had a big fluffy tail. And I'm like, Cullen, what's going on? What are you scared of? I don't even think he knew. Just something at him. And I think it's the same thing with people. All of a sudden, our tail gets all fluffed up. And we're not even really sure what we're scared of. We're just scared there's something that we don't understand. And, if you think you've never met a gay person, you're wrong. You might not have known. They might not have told you. They might not know, but you're wrong. And so it's, hopefully, like I said, we're seeing a lot more diversity in film and television now, and in the music business. That's helping, because I think that's helping people to realize, well, wow, if I like this actor in something and he's gay, well, then I guess I know a gay person. And I think that's beautiful. But, you know, we just still have so far to go. And my dream for the queer community would be, well, like I said, first of all, for us to all love each other, because can't we all just get along? And secondly, for us to get to the point where it's just a non-issue.
Yeah.
Where it's not, you know, like sort of like the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek, right? Or like Star Wars, where everyone's at the Star Wars bar together and nobody's paying attention to the fact that everybody looks so different. I think it'd be lovely for us to get to that place as people.
Yeah. That'd be great.
To get past the ideas of tolerance and acceptance and into the place of integration and infusion, you know, where everybody just is everybody. And what the things that are about them are just their things. And that's cool.
That's right.
It's a dream. We're not there yet. I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime, but I'm so proud of the two of you. Let me ask the same question about women. Where do you think we need to go next as members of the female community on the earth? What is our next evolutionary, you know, marker, do you think?
Well,
As women, just as women not having anything to do within our community, just as women.
Yeah, women in general, because we're the biggest marginalized community, right? We're the majority who's treated like a minority.
right. And then if you have the intersectionality, not sexuality, sectionality of you're a woman of color, you're a trans woman of color, you know, then you have more of an experience, a different experience.
Right. Like minority plus minority plus minority.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit the same as the queer community. Women, and whether you're a woman, a cisgender, or a trans woman, or somebody female identifying, we have to respect each other, first of all, for who we are authentically. And then, you know, keep doing the work, you know, keep educating people, go to marches. If there's some, you know, we're fighting for our rights all the time now. We're not just fighting for our rights as a queer community, we're fighting for our rights as women. You know, we thought we'd be a lot better off than we are now as far as what we get paid, how we're treated, perhaps, you know, in a job, whether it's on set, whether it's in an office, wherever you work, you know, how are you being treated? Are you, you know, when I was in the workplace, just not an acting workplace, just like trying to get jobs when I was younger, I was growing up in Texas, it was almost expected that some dude was going to hit on you to get you, you know, that you had to do something to get paid more, that you had to have some sort of, there was a payoff. There was like, you know, not always, but, you know, literally. So that's shifted. And because more people started speaking out about that, but we have to speak out about that. We have to speak out if we've been sexually harassed. We have to speak out if we, you know, we can speak to the person directly. And if that doesn't work, you have to do something about it. You just can't let people get away with this anymore. You can't let, especially, I'm just going to, men get away with sexually harassing women, whatever. You can't actually let anybody get away with sexually harassing. And it happens to men too. I'm not saying it doesn't, but for women, it's been part of the entire experience. It's been an experience that I've had since I grew boobies. You know, people were always like, they looked at your boobs all the time. It's like, you know, when the joke, my eyes are up here, is not a joke. It's true. I didn't even have big ones. It was just like, but that became a part of my sexual self. And then it was, you know, something that I had to cover up or hide, or you'll see young girls and women sort of cave in. So their boobs are not sticking out, you know, so they're not being sexual. Like, it's like, I don't want to be, yes, I'm a sexual being. We are born sexual beings. We have all these parts that are sexual, but sometimes I just want to have an intelligent conversation without talking about that, you know, or having somebody look at you.
With either gender, with either
Right.
gender.
Right.
I think as people, especially in this country, and now I'm going to really go for it, I think I read this wonderful thing once on the back of a program. I was seeing a production of Twelfth Night. No, As You Like It. Shakespeare's As You Like It at South Coast Repertory. And there was this wonderful thing on the back about why Americans don't embrace Shakespeare. And it was all about the Puritan ethic, and that even though so many of us, our ancestors weren't Puritans, they came later, immigrated later, there's an ethic that has come down from those Puritans, that, you know, sex is bad, and people that live different lifestyles are bad, and you know, randy humor is bad, and we still carry that Puritan pious ethic inside of us. And I think that as Americans, look, you can watch somebody disemboweled in a PG movie, but if somebody shows a boob, it's R. I mean, we're so weird. So we're weird about sex in this country, like weird about it. So I think that men and women, right, we're all like 5-year-olds that have just discovered sex in a lot of ways. And it can be a bit disarming sometimes. So I agree. Yeah, everybody needs to learn to reel that in a little bit. And I think it's wonderful with what happened with the Me Too movement that now people have to think about, is this okay? Should I be doing this? Is this not okay? I think it's so important because humans are mammals, and sometimes we need to be corralled by boundaries. And I think that's happened even in the entertainment business, right? Now that you know, if you act like a megalomaniac on set, 50 people might post on X or Facebook about you. It's calmed down some people's megalomaniac behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people just need boundaries, and I think the Me Too boundary was definitely one that was needed.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything?
The most recent example of that was the lead balloon that hit during the Golden Globes.
Right.
Corey made a physical comment about Margot Robbie as Barbie, and that was the message again. That was the message that Barbie was trying to stop, and it landed like a lead balloon. And the look on Greta's face said everything.
Yeah, and
she just shut him down right there with that look. And let me tell you, it hit the internet like crazy, and it should.
It should.
Again, there's consequences to your actions. You have a right to use your voice, especially in something like that.
Yeah, it should. And you know, I have to tell you, I have a friend who's a big fan of his, and every time she's over, she wants to put his comedy specials on. And I think I understand he's crossing boundaries on purpose. I understand he's trying to get a rise through comedy, but I do think he pushes a lot of buttons with gender stereotypes and ethnic stereotypes. And I think that would have gone over in the 80s if he was Andrew Dice Clay, but it's a different world now. Yeah. And I think we can still get the message across and find a different way to say it, right? You have to just now find a different way to say things.
Yeah.
To get the humor across. And and so I was surprised when I saw he was hosting the Golden Globes just because of that, because I have seen his stuff, and it's very it's a lot. And even though sometimes I understand that he's making fun of people who are Asian, but he's not just making fun of Asian people who are his Asian. He's not just his ethnicity. He's across the board, and it's very angry and very aggressive. And you just have to be careful now. I look back at my band from the 90s and my characters I did in the 90s, and I'm like, yeah, all that would have been canceled.
Exactly.
At the time, it was our social consciousness. It was how we said the things that needed to be said for social justice. But you have to just do it in a different way now. And you have to be okay to do that, or you're going to get the looks, and the internet's going to explode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had seen his comedy only on TikTok, so it was just small this much time on TikTok. So that's the only, and I was like, he's a funny dude. So when they said he was doing the Golden Globes, I was like, all right, I've seen his stuff on TikTok. He's a funny dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think for women, and this is my women rant. You guys all heard my LGBT rant. We have got to start supporting each other. Like, it's this throwing each other under the bus thing. It's got to stop. We have to start supporting each other. And I understand past we were, a marginalized community, and everybody's trying to survive. And, if only one woman can get the thing and I've got to throw the rest under the bus, I understand why people did what they did. But we have to stop, because we're never going to get the equality we seek if we don't treat each other like we all deserve it.
Well, if we'd stop doing reality shows like Housewives of whatever.
Right.
But
and the Kardashians.
Yeah. I was going to say something about that. I lost. Sorry. That's all right.
Yeah. I guess, yes. More throwing each other under the bus. Yeah. We need to start supporting each other. And I think it's so important.
Oh yeah. I know what I was going to say too, is because it was almost okay it was not okay with women, but we just didn't talk about if we had been sexually abused in the past. Sometimes there were abortions that happened as a result of that. There were things that there's a snowball effect that this all has that we're dealing with right now. And so now when somebody says this person did this to me 20 years ago, well, why is she just now talking about it? Because now is the time it's safe to talk about it. It was not safe to talk about it before. You would lose your job, you would lose whatever, and so when women do speak up, and this is why I'm saying this, when women do speak up, there will be somebody saying, oh, they're just crazy, they're just hysterical, they're now just all jumping on a bandwagon because somebody else had this experience.
Attention seekers.
So the thing is, we know the truth, we know our history, we know how we came to the point where we have to speak up, and we can't let people who don't know us put us down for that. We have to just stay true to the truth, and I feel like that's where we can find our power. There's power in truth. There's power in knowing our energy, and there's power in knowing what's okay for us and what's not okay for us, what's okay for our bodies and what's not okay for our bodies. And if you're a sexual being, you want to have sex with everybody, great. I don't care. Like, do it. I did my share of it, but
have some extra sex for me, because I'm very busy.
Oh, it's not all it's cracked up to be either, by the way. but it's wherever you are and whatever you're experiencing. And I feel like we just need to be true to ourselves. And that's the bottom line for me.
I think you were both so beautiful. And I thank you both so much for being here. And I hope we can do this again. I would love that.
Me too. Thank you for asking us. We love you, Sheena.
Oh, I love you too, both so much. Where can people find you online? Is there a place where people can check out what you're up to?
We're on all the socials except for X.
And I have a website, mcacciatore.com, and then social media, and then IMDb. Look us up there.
Beautiful. Do that. Thank you so much for being here, Robin McWilliams, Madonna Cacciatore, two of my favorite people, one of my favorite couples. I love you both so much, and thank you for being
here. Sheena. Thank you.
If you missed any of those links, you can find me at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. That's my website, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. You can also find me on all the socials at Sheena Metal. And also you can text me if you just want to say hi and stay in touch. Here's my cell number, 818-437-0886. Until I see you next Friday at 3:00 Pacific time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, and most especially know that you are love, and you are loved, and you're loved by me. Thanks to my wonderful engineer and producer, Emery. You are the wind beneath my wings, my friend, and I appreciate you. Until I see you next time, Friday at 3 p.m., I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Stay beautiful. I'll see you next time.